Hi guys, welcome to Building a House in California.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
This is my husband Jim. He's being silly. He's here with me today so we can talk to you a little bit about what we're going to do with this 2-acre piece of land. So we want to build a 3,400 square foot house. We have the plans, we have it turned in. We're getting ready to start on the project here in about 2 weeks. We're also in the process of building a 60 by 80 metal shop, which Jim is very excited about. We are 1 week away from getting that shop put up. Okay, so the first thing we had to do on the property is grade it.
We had a drainage issue on the property where the property used to be a hayfield, and along one side of the property there was a real low spot, and throughout the property kind of did this, and it wasn't much variation. It was actually pretty level, but because we didn't want water puddling up, creating huge mud puddles around the property, it was going to be better for us to grade the property so that our grass, everything was nice and looking level, and no mud puddles around the property, and keeping water away from the house and the shop.
Yes. And in order to do this, we had to take a couple different steps. We had to go out and
Chisel the property.
So when we chiseled the property, it was pretty wet after we did it. The ground was wet. So we had to let it dry out, and that took about a week, would you say? About a week for the ground to dry out?
Yeah, it was about a week. So we started this process in the winter, and so the ground was naturally wet. Luckily, we lucked out and we had some pretty heavy north winds for a few days, and so that actually dried the dirt out pretty well once we chiseled it, and that allowed us to be able to come through and actually grade the topsoil the way that we wanted it to.
Here's a video of the tractor we used to chisel the property. I would say this process took about a half a day's worth of work. This is what the property looked like when we were finished. And here's what it looked like after it dried out. Yes, and to grade the property, we had to use this massive tractor. I'll go ahead and show you some pictures of it. And our friend Eric was able to get that tractor from a friend and use it to grade the property, which we were just so lucky and so blessed to be able to use that tractor, because typically grading a property is rather expensive, and that's why a lot of custom home builders skip this process when they're building a house.
Yeah, it adds a lot of extra expense that a lot of people need to cut certain expenses out when they're building a home. Like the appraisal process here in California, you don't get a lot of appraisal value for land, and so when you're going to build a home, you're like in Sutter County where we're at, you're paying a premium for the land in order to acquire it, but the land won't necessarily appraise for that much. So when you go through your final budgetary process with the bank, a lot of times it's something that easily is able to get cut out, because a lot of the properties down here in the valley are already pretty level. But for us, it made more sense to grade it away, and we had the abilities through our friends and resources to be able to take care of this fairly inexpensively and pay for it ourselves.
Yes, and also our last property was built in 1949, our house was, and actually sat below the road. So with that house, we had lots of water issues. At one point, we had water going into our garage, and
Barely. Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit, but
Enough to scare us, though.
Still, you don't want water getting into your home and ruining your things. And even though the codes are so different now than they were back then, no one could even get away with building a house below the road level. But we definitely wanted to just be overly precautious so that we never had issues with this in the future.
Yeah, and every building jurisdiction is different, but our local jurisdiction requires any new buildings to be 12 inches above the center line of the road. And so there is codes in place to stray away from having your home or any building you're going to build to actually have water getting in it. But for us, it was a matter of, we kind of had that scare with the last house, and we wanted to do everything we possibly could to keep the water from getting into any of our new buildings that we're trying to build.
Yes, and another thing is we have 3 dogs, and they get into everything, and they make huge messes all the time. So if we have puddles of mud all over the property, like, you can only imagine what that would do to our concrete. Not to mention just everything, crazy, just total craziness.
Not to mention 2 of our dogs are labs, and so they pretty much turn into pigs when there's a mud puddle around, and they like to roll in it and play in the water, and it's a nightmare. So to keep the mud out of our house and off of our patios, it was a good idea for us to grade. So the tractor that we were able to acquire through friends to grade the property was actually an agricultural tractor and an agricultural box scraper. It actually made really easy work of our property because the box scraper was 24 feet wide, and that's insanely wide. It only took a few passes to get from one side of the property to the other. But the nice thing about it was GPS enabled. So once we set up a GPS unit, we were actually able to set grade with the box scraper and through GPS, and so it always had just a slight grade to it instead of being level. So the property actually looks very flat and very level, but in fact from one side to the other there's actually a 12-inch difference, which allows the water to flow very easily. The normal piece of equipment that would be used to create a pad like this would be a motor grader, and we had the ability to try to rent one. I've got another friend that actually owns one. We were talking to him originally on renting that from him and using it, but he ended up getting called back to work, and so he had to use it. So that's when we found another friend of ours who had this John Deere 9330. It's a very large 8-wheel tractor, pivots in the center, and we use that 24-foot box scraper of his as well, and it just made really easy work of all the dirt and grading it.
So here's that tractor. As you can see, it was really big. Our kids got to go for a ride. They had a lot of fun. And then here's the tractor in action. See you later. Thanks for watching our channel. Subscribe and come follow us while we build a house in California.
I'm gonna get to work.